But Don,
Indeed.
tell me, what happened on August 6, 2011?
Around 2:22 a.m., a mission was spun up in northeastern Afghanistan. 17 Navy SEALs, 5 U.S. Navy support personnel, 3 U.S. Air Force special operators were crammed on board an old CH-47D Chinook helicopter. Tommy, this is a transport chopper. It's an old chopper. It's designed to carry troops, and it is defenseless. This mission was ordered and should have been 10 minutes from wheels up to wheels down. But something went wrong. We lost communication with the chopper. The chopper was accompanied by other United States military aircraft, 2 Apaches and an AC-130 gunship, who saw Taliban moving toward the landing zone. And Tommy, they requested permission to take the Taliban out and were denied. In fact, there was an ongoing conversation between that AC-130, let us take this Taliban out, these squirters they called him. Permission was denied. To make a long story short, the chopper, the CH-47, went in unprotected. And as it approached the landing zone at about 150 feet off the ground, a Taliban operative got off a shot with an RPG and took the chopper down and killed all 30 Americans on board, plus 8 Afghans on board as well.
And
it was the deadliest.
Don, I want to talk about the Afghans on board. Now, they were unidentified. Do we know anything more about those folks that were on board that helicopter?
No, and 2 points. Number one, it was a shock to me when I went through the military report to find out we were flying these missions with Afghans to begin with, in view of the problem we've had with green on blue violence. But we were supposed to have 7 Afghans on board. The problem is, though, they were switched out at the last second. And Tommy, that was covered up. The final report was completed in September 13th of 2011, and this wasn't discovered for almost a year and 4 months later. There was a major breach of United States aviation security protocol. These guys jumped on the chopper. We don't know who they are. We don't know why we were there. They were there, and we don't know why the military has covered it up.
Let's talk about the official military explanation, the Colt report. What did it officially tell us, and were there some gaps, some lack of evidence?
There were tremendous gaps, tremendous lack of evidence. The Colt report, authored by Brigadier General Jeffrey Colt, was completed September 13th of 2011, about 5 weeks after the shootdown, Tommy, and basically whitewashed it, said nothing went wrong. They try to create what I call a phantom issue about whether the CH-47D Chinook should have been used to begin with. There's nothing mentioned about the rules of engagement in there, nothing mentioned about Taliban moving to the landing zone, nothing mentioned about the security breach with Taliban, or excuse me, with Afghans getting on the chopper, nothing at all breached about the black box disappearing. It's a complete whitewash.
And the final military report also omitted all mention of security breach about the Afghans as well. So when I read this, that was my first thought here is, those Afghans on board, were they friendly, or did they purposely fly that helicopter into a Taliban hot zone?
That we don't know. And there are no follow-up questions. There were a few questions in the middle of this 1,200-page report. Those questions were shut down. This was discovered by Billy Vaughn, who is the father of fallen Navy SEAL Aaron Vaughn, about 14 months later. And basically, a senior enlisted member of the United States Army alerted us to the problem taking place. We don't know what happened to the Afghans. They were flown back to the United States. There were reports the bodies had been cremated, which, of course, would destroy DNA evidence. So if it was green on blue, in other words, if they were hostile, we would never know. And the Congress hasn't asked any questions about it. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Not only that, but we're talking about SEAL Team 6 here, and we're talking about just months after the raid that killed Osama bin Laden. So to me, that's very fishy here that we're flying into an area and we have such a lack of evidence here. Was this vengeance for Osama bin Laden's death, in your opinion?
Yes, in my opinion. We do know that the day after bin Laden was taken out, the Taliban immediately vowed revenge. The problem here, and we knew Osama bin Laden was taken out May the 1st, to refresh your recollection. On the 2nd, next day, the Taliban vowed revenge. By May the 11th, we had intercepted messages that the Taliban was moving 100 fighters into this small Tangi Valley with RPGs solely for the purpose of shooting down a chopper. And the problem, Tommy, is that the rules of engagement under which our military has been operated that night are suicidal rules of engagement. We were not allowed to soften the beachhead. We were not allowed to protect that landing zone, and we had the firepower to do it. And the commanders of those aircraft asked to do it, and they were denied. So, yes, they stroked the flames, they stroked the fires. They were waiting for us, and it looked to me like an absolute ambush.
And I want to talk about those rules of engagement right now, because this may have happened in 2011, but we're dealing with this right here and now. And I think that's why this story resonated so much with me. Again, our rules of engagement, when we're sending even Navy SEAL teams over to these areas, they have very strict orders on what they can and cannot do.